Johnson just walked into an interview and somehow managed to offend women, the gay community, and half of Hollywood before the episode even finished loading. Not because of who his father is, not because of the outfit, but because of what came flying out of his mouth with zero hesitation and even less remorse. Buckle up, because this one is wild from start to finish. Picture this: Magic Johnson's kid, head-to-toe designer, sitting across from Carlos King, comfortable, confident, completely unbothered, and within the first few minutes of that interview, drops a statement so bold, so breathtakingly audacious, that it stopped people mid-scroll all over the world. He said, and I need you to really hear this, that no matter what room he walks into, he looks better than every woman there. Every single one. Didn't whisper it, didn't laugh it off, said it like a fact, like gravity, like the sun rises in the east, and the internet did not recover. But here's the twist that makes this so much more complicated. EJ doesn't identify as a woman, doesn't want the trans label, doesn't even like the word gay anymore, but wants the dress, the pronouns, the femininity, the attention, the crown. Just not the struggle that comes with actually being a woman. Not the pay gap, not the misogyny, not the physical and emotional weight of womanhood, just the highlight reel. You want the trophy without playing a single quarter of the game. Honey, that's not how any of this works. So here's how it actually went down. EJ sits across from Carlos King, decides, apparently, that today is the day to say absolutely everything he's been holding back. He tells the world that on his birthday in June, he sat Magic and Cookie Johnson down, two of the most iconic, recognizable, legendary figures in entertainment history, and looked them in the eyes and said, "We are done. No more he, no more man, no more son." And then dropped this line like it cost him nothing. He's dead. Just like that. Birthday cake probably still on the table, candles still smoking. Magic Johnson, the man who conquered the NBA, survived a diagnosis that should have ended him, built a business empire from nothing, sitting there processing that his child just declared a funeral for an identity. The silence in that room must have been something else entirely. But wait, because it gets so much messier. AJ also revealed, casually, confidently, that he doesn't date gay men, doesn't go to gay bars, avoids gay events entirely, skips the pride parades, skips the clubs. Why? Because in his words, the men he attracts simply aren't there. He wants straight men, men who've spent most of their lives dating women, men with strong masculine energy. Okay, so let's actually do the math here. She/they pronouns, check. Claims to be more feminine and better dressed than every woman in the room, check. Refuses to step foot in a gay space, check. Only romantically interested in men who don't identify as gay, check. This part genuinely doesn't add up, and trust me, the internet clocked it within minutes. People weren't just confused, they were frustrated because it felt like EJ wanted to rewrite every rule while benefiting from all of them simultaneously. But then came the comment that detonated the entire conversation. EJ looked dead into that camera, sat up straight, and announced to anyone watching, no matter what room he walks into, he is the most beautiful person there. Better dressed than the women, better looking than the women. The women in the room, he said, aren't doing it. They're not dressed, they're not cute, they're not at his level. And he said this while also refusing to call himself a woman. Let that sit for a second. The women of the internet didn't just respond, they organized. Someone on X wrote, "Bigfoot in a crossdress thinks he's the main character." Another person said, 6'4", not passing, not even close, but please continue. And then this comment that hit different. Gay men stay disrespecting women every single day and nobody says a word. The moment we respond, we're the problem. But here's what made this story explode even further. It wasn't just women who pushed back. His own community looked at what EJ said and said quietly but clearly, "We don't claim this." Gay influencer Landon Romano got on camera. No script, no filter, just facts. Looked straight into the lens and delivered the line of the entire month. If you're the baddest in the room must be empty. The crowd absolutely lost it. Then Bobby Lights, gay reality TV veteran, chronically online, zero chill, came through with a read so specific it felt almost surgical. Said EJ moves through the world like a Republican white woman in her mid-40s with a vegan, gluten-free chip on her shoulder. That sentence was so unnervingly accurate, it almost looped back around to being a compliment. Almost. And that's not even the craziest part of this story, because just when you think this is standard celebrity drama, just when you think you've seen the full picture, DL Hughley walks through the door, and he did not come to play nice. He looked at everything happening with EJ, then looked at the growing and undeniable list of Hollywood celebrities with trans or non-binary children, and asked the question out loud that millions of people were already asking in private. Is this really just a coincidence? Because the list is not short. Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union. They've shared publicly that their child Zaya knew she was transgender at age 3. 3 years old. DL Hughley heard that number and said, absolutely not. No 3-year-old on this planet understands what transgender means unless a parent introduced that concept to them first. He said it clearly, loudly, without walking it back. Some people stood up and applauded. Some people wanted him canceled by sunrise. And honestly, both reactions make complete sense depending on where you're standing. But then you see the full list laid out in front of you, and some fans speculate it starts feeling less like coincidence and more like a pattern. Marlon Wayans announced in 2023 that their child had transitioned. Eddie Murphy has a child now living as a trans man. Elon Musk, Robert De Niro, Charlize Theron, Jamie Lee Curtis all have transgender daughters. Angelina Jolie's daughter Shiloh, non-binary. One of Megan Fox's sons, non-binary. Cher, Celine Dion, J-Lo's daughter Emmy, non-binary. And just recently, and this one genuinely caught people off guard, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner's child Finn, formerly known as Serafina, came out as non-binary. That is not a short list. That is not a coincidence people can easily dismiss. And Hollywood cannot seem to shut this conversation down no matter how hard it tries. So people started theorizing, loudly. Some fans speculate it's social contagion. These kids run in tight, insulated friend groups, often neurodivergent, often intensely online. One person comes out, then another, then the whole circle follows. Less about individual identity, more about belonging somewhere, feeling seen, feeling special. Others point to something called privilege guilt, the idea that kids raised in obscene wealth, surrounded by fame and access, start to feel the weight of that privilege, and transitioning, people speculate, becomes a way to claim a marginalized identity, something that feels earned, something real in a life that's been curated and filtered since birth. Then there's the attention theory. These are kids who grew up watching their parents command every room they entered, but they themselves had no special talent, no obvious gift, no lane of their own, until they came out. And suddenly the world called them brave, stunning, revolutionary, and that validation becomes something you chase forever. Then Cat Williams shows up and takes this somewhere most people won't go on camera. He claimed, and people speculate loudly, constantly about this, that there's a culture buried deep inside Hollywood where allegiance isn't just about loyalty or contracts or handshakes, it's about sacrifice, about offering something precious to prove you belong at that level. Can any of this be verified? Absolutely not. Is Cat Williams the only person saying it? Also not. And that's the part that makes people stop and stare a little longer than they planned. Make of that what you will. So here's where we actually land. EJ Johnson, head-to-toe designer, full confidence, unshakable energy, standing in rooms full of women, declaring himself the most beautiful person there, while simultaneously refusing to claim the identity of the very people he's comparing himself to. You want the crown of womanhood. You want the clothes, the aesthetic, the social capital, the softness, the praise, but you won't carry the weight that crown actually comes with. You won't claim the name, won't acknowledge the struggle, won't sit in the full reality of what being a woman actually costs in this world. Some fans aren't calling that femininity. They're calling it privilege with a beat face and a designer bag. And then zoom out. Look at the list again. Look at how many children of the most powerful people on the planet are navigating identity in ways that were almost unheard of a generation ago. Maybe it's visibility. Maybe these stories always existed but nobody was watching. Maybe it's evolution. Maybe it's something else entirely. But the conversation is nowhere near